Let me tell you about the moment I discovered that everything I believed about money was backwards. I was sitting in a coffee shop in downtown Manhattan, completely broke. My bank account had $83 in it. I had $700 in rent due in 4 days. I had applied to 42 jobs in the past month and received exactly 0 callbacks. I was desperate, exhausted, and convinced that the universe had simply decided I wasn't meant to have money. At the table next to me sat 2 men in expensive suits, discussing a deal. I couldn't help but overhear their conversation. One of them said something that would change my entire relationship with wealth. Money isn't the goal, James. Money is just energy responding to energy. When you get your energy right, the money shows up automatically. I thought it was privileged nonsense. Of course, someone in a $3,000 suit thinks money is just energy. He probably inherited his wealth. He probably never had to choose between paying rent and buying groceries. What did he know about real financial struggle? But I was desperate enough that I wrote down what he said. And over the next 6 months, as I studied everything I could find about the relationship between energy and wealth, I discovered something that completely transformed my financial reality. He was right. Money does follow energy. Not in some vague, mystical way, but in a precise, predictable, replicable way that anyone can learn and apply. 3 years later, I own 2 businesses generating over $30,000 per month in passive income. I invest in real estate. I travel internationally 4 times per year. I never worry about unexpected expenses. And I work fewer hours now than I did when I was broke. This transformation didn't happen because I suddenly got lucky. It didn't happen because someone gave me money. It didn't happen because I stumbled into a get-rich-quick scheme. It happened because I learned the spiritual laws of wealth creation and aligned my energy with them. Now, before you dismiss this as New Age nonsense, let me be clear about what I mean by spiritual laws. I'm not talking about crystals and vision boards and manifesting money by thinking positive thoughts. I'm talking about fundamental principles about how energy, attention, and value flow through human systems. Principles that have been understood by wealthy people for centuries but are rarely taught explicitly. These aren't religious principles. You don't need to believe in any particular spiritual tradition to apply them. They work regardless of your beliefs, just like gravity works regardless of whether you believe in it. What I'm going to share with you in this audiobook is a framework for understanding wealth that's completely different from what you've been taught. Most people believe that money comes from working hard, saving diligently, and maybe getting lucky with an investment or a promotion. But wealthy people understand something different. They understand that money is ultimately a form of energy exchange. You provide value, which is a form of energy, and money flows to you in return. The more precisely you understand how to generate, direct, and amplify that energy, the more money you attract. This isn't theory. This is how I went from $83 in desperation to financial freedom. This is how I've watched dozens of my coaching clients transform their financial realities. And this is how you're going to transform yours. We're going to explore 7 spiritual laws of wealth creation. Each law builds on the previous one. Each law is both a principle to understand and a practice to implement. And when you align your energy with all 7 laws, money stops being something you chase and starts being something that flows to you naturally. Are you ready to completely transform your relationship with wealth? Then let's begin. Chapter 1. The Law of Energetic Alignment. The first spiritual law of wealth creation is this. Money flows most easily to those whose internal energy is aligned with having money. This sounds simple, but it's profound. Let me explain what energetic alignment means and why most people are completely misaligned without realizing it. Right now, you have a relationship with money. That relationship is defined by your beliefs, your emotions, your habits, and your identity around wealth. Most people's relationship with money is characterized by scarcity, fear, resentment, and anxiety. Think about how you feel when you check your bank account. Do you feel peaceful and confident? Or do you feel a knot of anxiety in your stomach? When you see wealthy people, do you feel inspired? Or do you feel a subtle resentment, a sense that they have something they don't deserve? When someone asks you to invest in yourself, a course, a coach, a new skill, what's your immediate reaction? Is it "this is an investment in my growth"? Or is it "I can't afford this"? These reactions aren't random. They're reflections of your energetic alignment with money. And here's the crucial thing. If your internal energy around money is characterized by scarcity and fear, you will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity to create wealth. Let me give you a personal example. When I was broke, I believed at a deep level that I wasn't the kind of person who has money. This wasn't a conscious belief. If you'd asked me, I would have said I wanted to be wealthy. But unconsciously, my identity was built around being broke. Being broke was familiar. It was safe, in a weird way. I knew how to be broke. I knew how to complain about being broke. I knew how to bond with other broke people over being broke. Wealth was foreign and scary. It would mean becoming a different kind of person, and that threatened my identity. So even when opportunities came to make more money, I sabotaged them. I'd get a freelance offer and somehow procrastinate on delivering the work. I'd have a chance to ask for a raise and convince myself it wasn't the right time. I'd start a side project and abandon it after 2 weeks. This is what misalignment looks like. Your conscious mind wants wealth, but your unconscious energy is repelling it. The first step in creating energetic alignment is becoming aware of your actual beliefs about money. Not what you think you should believe, but what you actually believe at a gut level. Here's an exercise. Complete these sentences without thinking about them too much. Just write the first thing that comes to mind. Rich people are. Money is. I don't have money because. If I became wealthy, I would. People would think I'm. Your answers reveal your energetic programming around wealth. And I can almost guarantee that many of your answers reflect scarcity-based beliefs. Maybe you wrote, "Rich people are greedy," or "Money is the root of evil," or "I don't have money because the system is rigged." These beliefs, even if they contain some truth, are energetically misaligned with creating wealth. Think about it. If you believe rich people are greedy, and you don't want to be greedy, then your unconscious mind will prevent you from becoming rich to protect your self-image. If you believe money is inherently corrupting, you'll subconsciously reject opportunities to accumulate it. This is why affirmations alone don't work. You can stand in front of a mirror saying, "I am wealthy," all day long, but if your underlying beliefs contradict that statement, your unconscious mind will override it. Creating energetic alignment requires actually changing your beliefs, not just papering over them with positive statements. So how do you change beliefs? The same way you develop them in the first place, through repeated exposure to new evidence that contradicts the old belief. If you believe rich people are greedy, you need to deliberately expose yourself to examples of wealthy people who are generous. Study philanthropists. Read about business owners who treat their employees incredibly well. Find wealthy mentors who embody integrity. Gradually, your brain will accumulate enough evidence to update the belief. If you believe, "I'm not the kind of person who has money," you need to collect evidence that contradicts this. Start by making small amounts of money in new ways. Sell something online. Do freelance work. Get paid for your knowledge. Each instance of making money is evidence that you are the kind of person who can generate income. This process takes time. You can't change beliefs that have been forming your entire life in one afternoon. But if you consistently and deliberately expose yourself to new evidence, your beliefs will shift. And as your beliefs shift, your energetic alignment changes. Here's what energetic alignment with wealth feels like. When you think about money, you feel calm and confident. You see money as a tool, not a source of stress. You believe that you can create value and be compensated for it. You don't resent wealthy people. You study them. You're not afraid of money. You're comfortable with it. When you're aligned, opportunities start appearing that you couldn't see before. People start offering you projects, partnerships, investments. It's not magic. It's that your energy is now open to receiving these opportunities instead of unconsciously repelling them. I remember the shift clearly. About 4 months into my journey of transforming my beliefs about money, I was at a networking event. In the past, I would have felt out of place, intimidated by everyone's apparent success. But that night I felt different. I felt like I belonged there. I felt like someone who creates value and gets paid for it. A woman approached me and asked what I did. Instead of downplaying my work like I usually did, I confidently explained my business and the value I provided. She said, "That's exactly what my company needs. Can you send me a proposal?" That conversation turned into a $15,000 contract. It happened because my energy had shifted. I was no longer broadcasting, "I'm broke and desperate," energetically. I was broadcasting, "I create value and expect to be compensated fairly." That's what energetic alignment creates. Not magic, not luck, just a fundamental shift in how you show up in the world, which changes how the world responds to you. Your assignment for this chapter: spend 1 week deliberately examining and challenging every scarcity-based belief you have about money. Every time you catch yourself thinking, "I can't afford this," or "rich people are bad," or "money doesn't grow on trees," stop and ask, is this belief serving my financial growth? What would I believe instead if I were already wealthy? This is the foundation. Everything else we build depends on establishing energetic alignment first. Chapter 2. The Law of Value Creation. The second spiritual law of wealth creation is this: money is the material form of gratitude for value received. This principle transforms everything about how you approach earning money. Most people think about money as something they get for their time. They trade hours for dollars. This creates a linear, limited relationship with wealth. But wealthy people understand that money isn't payment for time. It's payment for value. And value can be created and multiplied in ways that time cannot. Let me explain what I mean by value. Value is anything that improves someone's life in a way they care about. It could be solving a problem. It could be saving time. It could be creating pleasure. It could be reducing pain or anxiety. It could be providing education or entertainment or convenience. When you create genuine value for someone, they naturally want to exchange money for it. Money is simply the socially accepted form of saying, "Thank you for making my life better." This understanding changes everything about how you think about earning money. Instead of thinking, "What job can I get that pays well?" you start thinking, "What value can I create that people would pay for?" Instead of thinking, "How can I convince someone to hire me?" you start thinking, "What problem can I solve that people are struggling with?" Instead of thinking, "I need to work more hours to make more money," you start thinking, "How can I create more value in the same amount of time?" When I was broke, I was stuck in time for money thinking. I was working as a freelance writer, charging $30 per hour. I was maxing out at about 40 hours per week of actual billable work, which meant my absolute ceiling was around $5,000 per month. But I was exhausted, burned out, and frustrated because I could see that ceiling clearly. There was no path to 6 figures, let alone real wealth, in that model. Everything changed when I shifted from selling time to selling value. Instead of saying, "I charge $30 per hour to write," I started saying, "I help businesses generate leads through strategic content, and I charge based on the results." A blog post that takes me 2 hours to write might generate thousands of dollars in new business for a client over the course of a year. When I was charging for time, I made $60 for that article. When I started charging for value, I could charge $500 or $1,000 for the same work, because I was pricing based on the value delivered, not the time invested. This is the shift from linear income to exponential income. Time is linear. You only have 24 hours in a day. But value can be exponential. You can create something once that provides value thousands or millions of times. Think about a book. An author might spend a year writing it. But once it's written, it can provide value to millions of readers over decades. The value creation is multiplicative. which means the income potential is multiplicative. Think about software. A programmer might spend 6 months building an app, but once it's built, it can serve millions of users simultaneously. The value is replicated infinitely at near zero marginal cost. This is why the wealthiest people in the world aren't the ones who work the most hours. They're the ones who create the most value at the greatest scale. Now, you might be thinking, that's great, but I don't know how to build an app or write a best-selling book. What value can I create? The answer is simpler than you think. You can create value by solving problems that you've already solved for yourself. Think about every challenge you've overcome in your life. Learning a skill, losing weight, building confidence, managing anxiety, improving a relationship, starting a business. Whatever it is, someone else is currently struggling with that exact problem and would pay you to help them solve it. Your lived experience is valuable. Your knowledge is valuable. Your perspective is valuable. Most people never monetize this because they think everyone already knows what I know. But they don't. Your specific combination of knowledge and experience is unique, and there are people who need exactly what you have to offer. Here's how you identify the value you can create. First, list every skill you have that others might want to develop. Not just professional skills, life skills, interpersonal skills, creative skills, everything. Second, list every problem you've successfully solved in your own life. Health, financial, relationship, career, everything counts. Third, list every piece of knowledge you have that most people don't. Maybe you understand cryptocurrency. Maybe you know how to negotiate. Maybe you're great at public speaking. Maybe you understand gardening or fitness or meditation or parenting. Fourth, ask yourself, if someone came to me desperate for help with X, could I help them? For every yes answer, you've identified value you can create. The next step is packaging that value in a form that can be exchanged for money. This could be one-on-one coaching or consulting, a digital course or program, a book or guide, a service you provide, a product you create, a workshop or training you facilitate. Let me give you my personal example. When I solved my own problem of being broke and learned how to create wealth, I initially thought, great, this is valuable for me, but who would pay me to teach this? But then I realized, millions of people are struggling with exactly what I struggled with. They're broke, frustrated, and don't know how to change their financial reality. The knowledge I gained through my own transformation was incredibly valuable to them. So I started offering coaching. Just one person at first, who I charged $200 for a 6-week program. That client got incredible results. Went from broke to making their first $1,000 online in those 6 weeks. That success story became evidence of my value creation. I raised my prices to $500, then $1,000, then $3,000. Not because I was greedy, but because the value I was creating for clients was worth far more than what I was charging. Today, my coaching programs start at $5,000, and I have a waiting list. Why? Because I've proven that I can help people create 10, 20, 50 times more value than what they pay me. The exchange is energetically fair. They give me money. I help them transform their financial reality. This is how the law of value creation works. You identify value you can create, you package it in an exchangeable form, you deliver it to people who need it, and money flows to you as a natural result. But here's the crucial thing. You have to actually create genuine value. You can't fake this. You can't just package something and hope people will pay for it without it actually helping them. The energy of genuine value creation is completely different from the energy of trying to extract money from people. When you're focused on creating real value, people can feel it. They trust you. They want to work with you. They recommend you to others. When you're focused on just getting money, people can feel that too. They're skeptical. They hold back. They don't refer you. This is the spiritual aspect of the law of value creation. Your intention matters. If you're genuinely focused on improving people's lives, the money follows naturally. If you're focused on the money, it eludes you. I see this with my coaching clients all the time. The ones who focus obsessively on how much money will I make struggle. The ones who focus on how much value can I create thrive. It's counterintuitive, but it's true. The less you focus on getting money and the more you focus on creating value, the more money you make. Your assignment for this chapter: identify 3 forms of value you could create starting this week. Not someday when you're ready, not eventually when you have more time, this week. Value you could create for someone that would genuinely improve their life in a way they'd be willing to pay for. Then create one of those forms of value and offer it to someone. Even if it's imperfect. Even if you charge very little or even do it for free the first time to prove your concept. The point is to start the energy of value creation flowing. Because once that energy starts flowing, it builds on itself. And that's when wealth starts accumulating. Chapter 3. The Law of Circulation. The third spiritual law of wealth creation is this: money must circulate to multiply. This is perhaps the most misunderstood principle of wealth creation. Most people think that wealth comes from hoarding, from holding onto every dollar, minimizing expenses, and slowly accumulating savings through deprivation. But wealthy people understand something different. Money is like water. It has to flow to stay healthy. Stagnant water becomes toxic. Flowing water stays fresh and life-giving. The same is true with money. Money that circulates creates more money. Money that's hoarded out of fear stops growing. Now, I'm not saying you should be reckless with money. I'm not advocating spending everything you earn. What I'm saying is that there's a difference between strategic circulation and fearful hoarding, and understanding this difference is critical to wealth creation. Let me tell you about my biggest money mistake and what it taught me. When I started making good money, when my monthly income crossed $10,000 for the first time, I was terrified of losing it. I'd been broke for so long that the idea of having money felt fragile and temporary. So I hoarded. I wouldn't invest in anything. I wouldn't hire help for my business. I wouldn't take any courses or work with coaches. I wouldn't upgrade my tools or my equipment. I kept everything I earned in a savings account, watching the number grow, feeling like I was finally being responsible with money. And my income plateaued. For 8 months, I stayed right around $10,000 to $12,000 per month. I couldn't figure out why I wasn't growing. I was working hard. I was providing value. But something was stuck. Then I met a mentor who asked me a simple question: what are you investing in your growth? I said, nothing. I'm saving everything. He said, that's why you're stuck. Money that doesn't flow doesn't grow. He explained the principle of circulation to me. Every dollar you earn is either going to work for you or it's sitting idle. Money in a low-interest savings account is essentially idle. It's not creating value. It's not generating returns. It's not expanding your capacity. But money invested strategically, in your education, in your business, in assets that appreciate, in relationships that create opportunity, multiplies. He challenged me. What if you invested $5,000 in yourself this month? What could that create? I was terrified. $5,000 was nearly half my monthly income at the time. But I trusted his guidance. I invested $5,000 in a high-level business coaching program. That investment forced me to show up differently. I was suddenly surrounded by people operating at a much higher level than me. I learned strategies I never would have discovered on my own. I got feedback that transformed my approach. I made connections that led to joint ventures. Within 90 days, my monthly income had doubled to $25,000. That $5,000 investment had generated an additional $15,000 per month in ongoing income. This is what circulation looks like. You take money and you invest it in things that expand your capacity to create more value, which generates more money, which you can invest again, creating an upward spiral. The opposite, hoarding money out of fear, creates a downward spiral. When you refuse to invest in your growth, you stagnate. When you stagnate, your income plateaus. When your income plateaus, you get even more fearful, so you hoard even more tightly. It's a vicious cycle. Now, here's the important distinction. Strategic circulation is not the same as mindless spending. You're not buying things to make yourself feel better. You're not trying to look rich. You're investing in things that directly expand your capacity to create value. Here are examples of strategic circulation. Investing in education. Courses, coaching, books, conferences, workshops that teach you valuable skills and connect you with valuable people. Investing in your business. Tools, software, team members, marketing, anything that allows you to serve more people at a higher level. Investing in assets. Real estate, stocks, businesses. Things that generate passive income or appreciate in value. Investing in your health. Quality food, gym memberships, health coaching, therapy, anything that keeps your body and mind operating at peak performance. Investing in relationships. Taking people to lunch, attending networking events, joining masterminds, hiring mentors, anything that builds valuable connections. Notice what's not on that list. Fancy cars, designer clothes, expensive restaurants, luxury vacations. Not because these things are inherently bad, but because they're consumption, not investment. They don't expand your capacity to create value. This is where many people get confused about wealth. They see wealthy people spending money on luxury items and they think that's what wealth looks like. But they're seeing the end result, not the process. Wealthy people consume after they've built income-producing assets. They buy the luxury car after they've built the business that generates $100,000 per month in passive income. The consumption is funded by circulation that has already multiplied many times over. When you're in wealth-building mode, which is where you are right now, your job is to maximize strategic circulation and minimize consumption. Every dollar should be go to work expanding your capacity to create value. Here's a practical framework. For every dollar you earn, allocate it according to the 60-20-10-10 rule. 60% to necessities. Rent, food, basic transportation, utilities, the things you need to survive. 20% to strategic investment. Education, business growth, asset acquisition, the things that expand your capacity. 10% to savings, emergency fund, future large purchases, the buffer that gives you peace of mind. 10% to giving, charity, helping others, supporting causes you care about, circulation that creates positive karma. Notice that this formula forces you to invest 20% of your income in your growth. That might feel like a lot, especially if you're currently operating from scarcity. But I promise you, investing 20% in strategic circulation will generate more additional income than saving that 20% ever could. Let me give you another example. Let's say you make $3,000 per month. Under this formula, you'd invest $600 per month in your growth. In 6 months, that's $3,600 invested. That might be a high-quality course, multiple books, a coach for a few sessions, attendance at a conference, whatever combination gives you maximum growth. Now, if that investment helps you increase your income by just 20%, from $3,000 to $3,600 per month, it pays for itself completely in 6 months. And then it continues generating that additional $600 per month indefinitely. But if you had just saved that $3,600, you'd have $3,600 after 6 months. And your income would still be $3,000 per month. No growth, no expansion, no multiplication. This is the power of circulation. Money that moves strategically multiplies. Money that sits stagnates. Now, there's one more aspect of circulation that's deeply spiritual. Giving. When you give money freely, without attachment to getting anything back, you're sending a powerful energetic signal to the universe. I have more than enough. I trust that more is coming. This might sound like woo-woo nonsense, but I've experienced it repeatedly. The more I give, the more comes back to me, not always from the people I gave to, but from unexpected sources. When I was making $12,000 per month and feeling stuck, I committed to giving away 10%, $1,200 per month, to causes and people I cared about. It terrified me. That was $1,200 I could have saved or invested in my business. But I did it anyway. And something shifted energetically. Within 2 months, my income jumped to $20,000 per month. I can't prove a causal relationship, but I believe the act of giving freely shifted my energy from scarcity to abundance. And that shift opened up new opportunities. Many wealthy people I know have similar stories. They committed to giving before they felt like they could afford it, and their income expanded to match their generosity. The spiritual law here is this: the universe rewards those who circulate energy freely. When you trust that more is coming and you give accordingly, more comes. Your assignment for this chapter: identify one strategic investment you'll make this month that will expand your capacity to create value. It could be a course, a coach, a tool for your business, attendance at an event, anything that directly contributes to your growth. Even if it feels scary, make the investment. Then watch how circulation creates multiplication. Chapter 4. The law of receiving. The fourth spiritual law of wealth creation is this: your capacity to receive is determined by your sense of worthiness. This is where most people get stuck. They understand value creation. They even understand circulation. But they have a deep, unconscious belief that they don't deserve wealth, and this belief caps their income no matter how much value they create. Let me ask you a difficult question. Do you believe you deserve to be wealthy? Not do you want to be wealthy. Of course you do. But do you believe at a core level that you are worthy of having significant amounts of money? That it's okay for you to have wealth while others struggle? That you won't become a bad person if you have more than enough? Most people, if they're honest, would say no. They have unconscious guilt about wanting or having money. They believe that good people shouldn't care about money, or that wanting wealth is somehow selfish or greedy. This belief is toxic to wealth creation. Because if you don't believe you deserve wealth, you will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity to receive it. Let me share my own struggle with receiving. Even after I'd learned to create value and understood circulation, I kept hitting an income ceiling around $30,000 per month. I couldn't figure out why. I was providing incredible value to my clients. I was investing in my growth. But I couldn't break through that ceiling. A coach finally helped me see the problem. I didn't believe I deserved to make more than $30,000 per month. That number represented 10 times what I'd been making when I was broke, and some part of me thought, this is already so much more than I had before. I should be grateful for this. Wanting more is greedy. Every time I had an opportunity to raise my prices or take on a higher-paying client, I'd sabotage it somehow. I'd underprice myself. I'd talk myself out of the opportunity. I'd convince myself that the client couldn't afford my services. But the truth was, I couldn't receive more because I didn't believe I deserved more. The coach had me do an exercise that changed everything. He asked me to write down why I deserved to be wealthy. Not why I wanted wealth, but why I deserved it. At first, I couldn't write anything. It felt arrogant to claim I deserved wealth. But he pushed me. You help people transform their financial lives. You've helped dozens of people go from broke to financially free. That's valuable. Do you deserve to be compensated well for that value? Finally, I started writing. I deserve wealth because I create massive value for people. I deserve wealth because I use money to do good in the world. I deserve wealth because I've worked incredibly hard to develop my skills. I deserve wealth because having money allows me to help more people. This exercise didn't solve everything immediately, but it started to shift my sense of worthiness. I began to internalize the truth. Receiving wealth isn't greedy. It's the natural result of creating value. And if I'm going to continue creating value at a high level, I need to receive compensation that matches that value. Once that belief shifted, everything changed. Within 3 months, my income jumped to $65,000 per month. Not because I was working twice as hard, because I was allowing myself to receive what I was actually worth. This is the spiritual principle of receiving. The universe can only give you what you're willing to receive. If you have a small container, limited beliefs about what you deserve, then even if abundance is flowing toward you, most of it will overflow and be lost. But if you expand your container, your sense of worthiness, you can receive much more. Here's how you expand your capacity to receive. First, identify your worthiness blocks. These are the unconscious beliefs that limit your receiving. Common ones include money doesn't grow on trees, scarcity belief. Rich people are greedy, moral judgment that makes you not want to be rich. I'm not smart enough to be wealthy, capability doubt. I don't deserve good things, core unworthiness. If I have more, someone else will have less, zero-sum thinking. Write down every negative belief you have about money and wealth. Be honest. These beliefs aren't bad, they're just learned, and they can be unlearned. Second, challenge each belief with evidence. For money doesn't grow on trees, gather evidence of ways money is abundant. How the global economy generates trillions of dollars annually, how wealthy people create wealth from ideas and value, how money is essentially infinite in a modern economy. For rich people are greedy. Find examples of generous, wealthy people. Study philanthropists. Look at business owners who treat their employees incredibly well. Prove to your brain that wealth and goodness can coexist. For I'm not smart enough. Look at evidence of your own competence. Look at problems you've solved. Look at skills you've developed. Look at people less capable than you who are wealthy. Intelligence isn't the limiting factor. Worthiness is. Third, practice receiving in small ways. This is crucial. You can't suddenly start receiving large amounts if you're not practiced at receiving small amounts. When someone offers to buy you coffee, say yes. When someone compliments you, say thank you instead of deflecting. When someone wants to help you, let them. When an opportunity comes your way, take it instead of talking yourself out of it. Each time you receive something, even something small, you're training your nervous system that it's safe to receive. You're expanding your capacity. Fourth, visualize yourself receiving wealth without guilt. Imagine having $1 million in your bank account. How does that feel? If you feel guilt, anxiety, or fear, those are worthiness blocks. Sit with those feelings. Process them. Ask yourself why having money feels unsafe or wrong. Then reimagine the scenario with different feelings. Imagine having $1 million and feeling peaceful, grateful, and excited about all the good you can do with it. Imagine using that wealth to help your family, support causes you care about, and create even more value in the world. The more you can visualize receiving wealth without negative emotions, the more you're training your subconscious to allow wealth in. Fifth, affirm your worthiness daily. Not in a fake, forced way, but as a genuine reminder to yourself. My personal affirmation is, I create massive value, and I deserve to receive abundance in return. Money flows to me easily because I make other people's lives better. Find an affirmation that resonates with you and repeat it every morning. Not to trick yourself into believing something false, but to remind yourself of what's already true. Here's a profound truth about receiving. The more you can receive, the more you can give. People with a limited capacity to receive have a limited capacity to give, because you can't pour from an empty cup. When you expand your capacity to receive abundance, you also expand your capacity to be generous, to invest in others, to create opportunities for people, to make a real difference in the world. This isn't selfish. It's strategic generosity. You receive so that you have more to give. I think about this often. Today, I'm able to give away more money every year than I used to make in total. I can support family members who are struggling. I can donate to causes I care about. I can create jobs by hiring people. I can invest in other people's businesses and dreams. None of this would be possible if I hadn't expanded my capacity to receive first. My current level of giving is only possible because of my past work on worthiness. Your assignment for this chapter: write down every worthiness block you're aware of. Then, for each one, write evidence that contradicts it. Spend this week deliberately practicing receiving compliments, help, opportunities, gifts, without deflecting or diminishing. Notice how it feels. Notice the resistance. And keep practicing anyway. Because your capacity to receive is your capacity to create wealth. Expand one, and the other expands automatically. Chapter 5. The Law of Detachment. The fifth spiritual law of wealth creation is paradoxical. The less you need money, the more easily it comes to you. This sounds backwards. Shouldn't desperation motivate you to work harder and earn more? Shouldn't needing money be the ultimate driver of wealth creation? No. And understanding why is critical to your financial transformation. Desperation creates desperation energy. When you need money urgently, when you're coming from a place of lack and fear, you broadcast that energy in every interaction. And people can feel it. They pull back. They don't trust you. They sense that you're not coming from a place of service. You're coming from a place of extraction. Think about the last time someone tried to sell you something and you could feel their desperation. Maybe it was a pushy salesperson or a friend involved in a multi-level marketing scheme. How did it feel? Probably uncomfortable. You probably wanted to get away from them. That's how you come across when you need money desperately. And it repels the very thing you're trying to attract. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care about money. It means you're not emotionally dependent on any particular outcome. It means you can pursue wealth with focused effort without being attached to whether this specific opportunity or client or deal works out. This is the energy of abundance. I'm creating value, and I trust that if this particular opportunity doesn't work out, another one will. I'm not desperate. I'm not needy. I'm confident in my ability to create wealth, so I don't need any specific thing to work out. When you operate from this energy, everything changes. People want to work with you. Opportunities open up. Money flows more easily because you're not energetically gripping it so tightly that it can't move. Let me tell you about the moment I learned this lesson. I was in negotiations with a potential client for a coaching contract worth $25,000. At the time, I really needed that money. I was behind on some business expenses, and this contract would solve all my immediate problems. So I went into the negotiation desperate for them to say yes. I could feel myself being willing to compromise on everything. My prices, my terms, my boundaries. I was so focused on getting the money that I lost sight of whether this was even the right client for me. They could sense my desperation. The negotiation dragged on for weeks. They kept asking for more concessions. They kept pushing back on price. And eventually, they went with someone else. I was devastated. I thought I'd done everything right. But my coach pointed out the obvious. You were desperate. They could feel it. And desperation is repulsive. He taught me about detachment. He said, the next time you're in a negotiation, decide beforehand what terms you're willing to accept and what you're not. Then walk into the meeting with this attitude. I'd love to work with you, and I think we could create amazing results together. But if this isn't the right fit, that's okay too. I trust that the right opportunities will come. It felt crazy to me. How could I possibly walk into a high-stakes negotiation and be okay with it not working out? But I tried it. The next potential client I talked to, I decided ahead of time, I'm not going below $5,000 for this package. And I'm not accepting any terms that compromise my boundaries. If they don't want to work with me on these terms, I'll wish them well and move on. I walked into that conversation completely detached from the outcome. I was confident, calm, and clear about my value and my terms. I made my offer, and when they pushed back on price, I didn't budge. I just said, I understand this is an investment. If it doesn't feel right for you at this price point, I totally respect that. I trust you'll find the right solution for you. They said yes immediately. Not only that, but they ended up being one of my best clients ever, got incredible results, and referred 5 more clients to me over the next year. That's the power of detachment. When you're not desperately gripping, energy can flow. This principle applies to every aspect of wealth creation. When you're looking for a job, The less you need any particular job, the better you interview and the better offers you get. When you're negotiating a raise, the less you need that specific raise, the more leverage you have. When you're starting a business, the less you need immediate results, the better decisions you make. Detachment creates two powerful effects. First, it changes your energy in a way that people can feel. You show up as confident, grounded, and abundant rather than desperate and needy. This makes people want to work with you, hire you, partner with you. Second, it improves your decision-making. When you're not desperate, you can be strategic. You can say no to opportunities that aren't aligned with your values or goals. You can wait for the right opportunity instead of grabbing at the first thing that comes along. Now, here's the challenge. How do you cultivate detachment when you actually do need money? When rent is due and the account is empty, how are you supposed to not be desperate? This is where the earlier laws become crucial. Detachment is much easier when you have multiple income streams, law of value creation and law of circulation. It's easier when you've expanded your capacity to receive and trust that more is coming, law of receiving. It's easier when you're energetically aligned with abundance instead of scarcity, law of energetic alignment. But even if you're not there yet, there are practices that cultivate detachment. Practice 1. Worst-case scenario planning. When you're attached to an outcome, it's usually because you're afraid of what will happen if it doesn't work out. So face that fear directly. Ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen if this doesn't work out? Usually, the worst case isn't nearly as catastrophic as your anxiety is telling you. Then ask, if the worst case happened, how would I handle it? Make a plan. Having a plan for the worst case reduces the fear, which reduces the attachment. Practice 2. Multiple options. Attachment comes from believing you have only one option. Detachment comes from knowing you have many. If you're desperate for a specific job, apply to 10 more. If you're desperate for a specific client, pitch to 10 more prospects. The more options you have, the less attached you are to any single outcome. Practice 3. Trust-building. Detachment requires trusting that if this doesn't work out, something else will. And trust is built through evidence. Keep a record of every time something didn't work out but something better came along later. Every time a door closed and a window opened. Every time you didn't get what you wanted but got something you needed. This evidence bank reminds your brain that you can trust the process, which makes detachment possible. Practice 4. Present moment focus. Attachment is always about the future, worrying about what will or won't happen. Detachment is about being fully present with what is right now. Practice mindfulness. When you catch yourself obsessing about whether something will work out, bring yourself back to this moment. What can you control right now? What value can you create right now? What action can you take right now? Practice 5. Redefine success. If you define success as this specific thing has to happen, you're setting yourself up for attachment and suffering. If you define success as I'm showing up, creating value, and trusting the process, you've created space for detachment. I redefine success constantly. Success isn't getting this client. Success is showing up to this conversation with confidence and clarity about my value. The first definition creates attachment. The second creates freedom. Here's the beautiful thing about detachment. It doesn't reduce your effort. You still work hard. You still create value. You still pursue opportunities. But you do all of it from a place of peace instead of fear, from abundance instead of scarcity. And that shift in energy changes everything. Your assignment for this chapter: identify one area where you're currently attached to a specific outcome. Maybe it's a job opportunity, a client, a deal, a relationship. Practice detachment by asking, what's the worst case, and how would I handle it? What other options do I have? What evidence do I have that things work out? What can I control right now? How can I redefine success in this situation? Then go into your next interaction with this new energy of detachment and notice what changes. Chapter 6. The Law of Growth and Gratitude. The sixth spiritual law of wealth creation is this: Whatever you appreciate, appreciates. This is one of the most powerful and overlooked principles of wealth creation. Most people focus obsessively on what they don't have, what's not working, what they lack. This focus on scarcity creates more scarcity. But when you focus on what you already have, when you genuinely appreciate what's working in your life, you create more of it. This isn't magical thinking. It's basic neuroscience combined with energetic reality. Let me explain both dimensions. First, the neuroscience. Your brain has something called the reticular activating system, which filters information based on what you've told your brain is important. When you focus on scarcity, your RAS filters reality to show you more evidence of scarcity. When you focus on abundance, your RAS shows you more evidence of abundance. Both perspectives are always available in reality. But what you focus on determines what you see, and what you see determines what you believe, and what you believe determines how you act, and how you act determines your results. Second, the energetic reality. When you're in a state of genuine gratitude, you're broadcasting abundance energy. You're saying to the universe, I have enough. I recognize the good that's already here. This energy attracts more good, more abundance, more opportunity. When you're in a state of complaint and focus on lack, you're broadcasting scarcity energy. You're saying, I don't have enough. Everything is wrong. This energy repels opportunity and abundance. I learned this lesson during the darkest period of my financial struggle. I was broke, living in my car, and convinced that life was unfair and the universe was against me. Every day, I'd wake up and immediately start cataloging everything that was wrong. I had no money, no job, no apartment, no prospects. The more I focused on what I didn't have, the worse I felt, and the worse I felt, the less capable I was of taking productive action. One morning, I hit absolute rock bottom emotionally. I was sitting in that car, and I genuinely didn't know if I wanted to keep trying. Then I remembered something my grandmother used to say, count your blessings, baby. Even when it's hard, there's always something to be grateful for. So I started making a list, just to prove her wrong, just to show myself that there really was nothing to be grateful for. But I couldn't do it, because even in my terrible situation, there were things I could honestly appreciate. I was alive. I was healthy. I wasn't in physical pain. I had my mind. I could think, read, learn. I had access to the library where I could use the internet and educate myself. I had a few friends who cared about me. I was in America where opportunity exists even if I hadn't captured it yet. I had skills I'd developed. I had experiences I'd learned from. As I wrote this list, something shifted inside me. I wasn't suddenly happy. I was still broke and struggling. But I wasn't hopeless anymore. I could see that even though my situation was difficult, I had resources. I had potential. I had something to build from. That shift in perspective changed everything. Instead of waking up every morning focused on what I didn't have, I started waking up and acknowledging what I did have. Instead of complaining about my situation, I started appreciating the small improvements. Got a free coffee from a friend? Grateful. Learned something valuable from a book? Grateful. Had a good conversation? Grateful. Made $5 doing a small gig? Extremely grateful. This practice of gratitude didn't change my circumstances immediately, but it changed my energy. And as my energy changed, opportunities started appearing that I couldn't see before. A librarian noticed I was always there learning and offered me a part-time job shelving books. $5 an hour, but it was money. A guy at a coffee shop overheard me talking about marketing and asked if I'd help him with his business website. $250. A friend of a friend needed a writer. $300. These opportunities were probably always around me, but I couldn't see them when I was in scarcity consciousness. Gratitude shifted my consciousness to abundance, which allowed me to perceive and receive opportunities. This is the power of appreciation. It literally changes what you can see and receive in reality. Now, Let's talk about the financial dimension of this law. Whatever you appreciate financially, appreciates. This works in two ways. First, when you appreciate the money you already have, no matter how small the amount, you're more likely to manage it well, which means it grows. When you resent having only a small amount, you tend to manage it poorly or spend it recklessly, which means it shrinks. I see this with coaching clients constantly. The ones who are grateful for their first $100 of online income treat that money with respect, reinvest it strategically, and it grows to $1,000, then $10,000. The ones who are disappointed that they only made $100 tend to spend it mindlessly, and their income stays stuck. Second, when you appreciate assets, whether that's a business, an investment, or a skill, you tend to nurture and develop them, which means they appreciate in value. When you don't appreciate what you have, you neglect it, and it depreciates. Think about two people who both start small businesses. One appreciates the business, feels grateful for the opportunity, invests time and energy into improving it, treats customers well, constantly looks for ways to add value. The business grows. The other doesn't appreciate the business, focuses on how hard it is, complains about customers, does the minimum, doesn't invest in improvement. The business fails. Same starting point. Different appreciation. Different outcome. This is why gratitude is a wealth creation practice, not just a feel-good exercise. Here's how to implement the law of gratitude in your financial life. Practice 1. Daily money gratitude every morning. Write down 3 things you're grateful for financially. Not generic things, specific things. I'm grateful I earned $47 yesterday from that freelance project. I'm grateful my car still runs, saving me transportation costs. I'm grateful I learned how to use that new software, which is a valuable skill. This daily practice trains your brain to look for financial abundance instead of financial scarcity. Practice 2. Appreciate your current income no matter how much or how little you're currently earning. Appreciate it. Thank your income sources. Feel grateful for every dollar that comes in. When I was making $500 a month, I practiced being genuinely grateful for that $500. Not in a fake, toxic positivity way, but in a real recognition that $500 was better than $0, and that every dollar represented value I'd created for someone. As I genuinely appreciated that $500, it grew to $1,000, then $2,000, then $5,000. Appreciation creates more to appreciate. Practice 3. Celebrate financial wins. Most people only celebrate huge financial wins, landing a big client, getting a major raise, hitting a revenue goal. But if you only celebrate the big wins, you're telling your brain that small progress doesn't count. Celebrate everything. Made your first dollar online? Celebrate. Saved $10 on groceries? Celebrate. Negotiated a $50 discount? Celebrate. Every celebration is appreciation, and appreciation creates more to appreciate. Practice 4. Appreciate your financial struggles. This is advanced, but powerful. Can you find gratitude for the financial struggles you've experienced? Not gratitude that they happened, but gratitude for what they taught you. Being broke taught me resourcefulness, taught me to be creative, taught me the value of money. It taught me empathy for others who struggle. It made me stronger, more resilient, more determined. I'm genuinely grateful for that struggle now, because without it, I wouldn't have become the person capable of creating wealth. Practice 5. Appreciate other people's wealth. When you see someone else experiencing financial success, practice genuine happiness for them instead of jealousy. Their abundance is evidence that abundance exists and is available. When I see a coaching client hit a huge financial goal, I celebrate genuinely. Not just because I helped them, but because their success proves that wealth creation is possible, which reinforces my own belief in abundance. Jealousy and resentment of others' wealth is scarcity thinking. It assumes that there's a limited amount of money, and if they have it, you can't have it. But wealth isn't zero-sum. Someone else's abundance doesn't diminish yours. It proves that abundance is possible. Here's a profound truth. You cannot create wealth while resenting wealthy people. You cannot receive something you're simultaneously rejecting in others. If you believe rich people are greedy or bad, your subconscious won't let you become rich because you don't want to become greedy or bad. But if you can genuinely appreciate wealth wherever you see it, in yourself, in others, in society, you remove that block. The law of gratitude is ultimately about this: training yourself to see and appreciate abundance everywhere, which opens you up to receiving and creating more abundance. Your assignment for this chapter: start a daily gratitude practice specifically focused on finances. Every morning, write down 3 things you're grateful for financially. Do this for 30 days without missing a single day. Watch how your perception of your financial reality shifts, and watch how opportunities you couldn't see before start appearing. Chapter 7. The Law of Service and Surrender. The 7th and final spiritual law of wealth creation is the most profound. True wealth comes from serving something larger than yourself. This is where everything we've discussed comes together. You've learned about energetic alignment, value creation, circulation, receiving, detachment, and gratitude. But all of these laws are in service of something bigger than just accumulating money. The ultimate secret of wealth creation is this: money is a byproduct, not a goal. When your primary goal is just to get money, you'll struggle. You'll create resistance. You'll make decisions from fear instead of wisdom. You'll burn out because the pursuit of money for its own sake is ultimately empty and unsatisfying. But when your primary goal is to serve, to make people's lives better, to solve meaningful problems, to contribute value to the world, money flows naturally as a byproduct of that service. And the wealth you create has depth, meaning, and sustainability that money for money's sake never provides. This was the final piece that unlocked everything for me. Even after I'd learned the other 6 laws, even after my income had grown significantly, I still felt like something was missing. I was making good money, but I didn't feel fulfilled. I was financially comfortable, but I wasn't deeply satisfied. Then I attended a seminar where the speaker asked a question that changed everything. What would you do with your life if money was completely irrelevant? If you had unlimited wealth and never had to think about money again, how would you spend your time? I realized immediately, I'd do exactly what I'm doing now. I'd help people transform their relationship with money and create financial freedom. Not because it pays well, because it matters. Because I've experienced the suffering of financial struggle and the joy of financial freedom, and I want other people to experience that transformation. That realization shifted everything. I stopped pursuing wealth and started pursuing impact. I stopped asking, how can I make more money? And started asking, how can I serve more people at a deeper level? And paradoxically, as I focused less on making money and more on creating impact, I made more money than ever before. Because when you're genuinely focused on service, people can feel it. They trust you more. They refer you more. They're willing to invest more because they can feel that you're not just trying to get their money, you're trying to improve their lives. This is the spiritual essence of wealth creation. Serve first. Surrender the outcome. Trust that if you genuinely serve, abundance will flow. Now, service doesn't mean working for free. It doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. It doesn't mean being a martyr. True service is sustainable. You provide value, you receive fair compensation, and both parties benefit. But the energy of service is different from the energy of extraction. When you're in service energy, you're asking, how can I help? When you're in extraction energy, you're asking, what can I get? People can always feel the difference. Here's how to align with the law of service. First, identify your unique form of service. What problem are you uniquely qualified to solve? What value are you uniquely capable of creating? What experience have you had that allows you to help others in a way that few people can? For me, it was financial transformation. I'd been broke and made it to financial freedom. That journey gave me unique insights that could help others make the same journey. For you, it might be something completely different. Maybe you've overcome health challenges. Maybe you've built successful relationships. Maybe you've developed unique creative skills. Maybe you've learned how to navigate career transitions. Whatever it is, that's your unique form of service. That's what you're here to contribute. Second, commit to serving at the highest level possible. Not just doing enough to get paid, but genuinely trying to create transformation for the people you serve. This means over-delivering on value. This means treating every client, every customer, every person you serve as if their success is your mission. This means continuously improving your ability to serve. When I work with coaching clients, I don't just give them information. I obsess over their success. I think about their challenges between sessions. I send them resources I find. I connect them with people who can help them. I genuinely care whether they succeed. This level of service is exhausting if you're doing it to look good or to get something in return. But it's energizing if you're doing it because you genuinely care about impact. Third, surrender the outcome. This is where detachment and service come together. You do everything you can to serve. You show up fully. You give your best. But you recognize that you can't control whether someone takes action on what you've taught them, whether they succeed, whether they appreciate your service. You do your part, and then you surrender the rest to the universe. This surrender is liberating. You're no longer carrying the weight of other people's outcomes. You're not taking it personally when someone doesn't succeed or doesn't appreciate your service. You just keep showing up and serving because that's who you are. Fourth, trust that abundance flows from service. This is a leap of faith initially, but it becomes experiential truth over time. The more you genuinely serve, the more abundance comes back to you, often from completely unexpected sources. You help someone for free, and 3 months later they refer a paying client to you. You over-deliver for a client, and they become your biggest advocate. You contribute value to a community, and opportunities emerge that you never could have predicted. The universe rewards service. Maybe not immediately, maybe not in the way you expect, but always eventually. Fifth, expand your service as you grow. This is how you scale wealth sustainably. When I first started, I could only serve a few people at a time through one-on-one coaching. As I grew, I created group programs that allowed me to serve dozens of people simultaneously. Then I created digital courses that could serve thousands. Then I wrote content that reached hundreds of thousands. Each expansion of my ability to serve created an expansion of my wealth. Not because I was chasing money, but because I was genuinely trying to help more people. This is the ultimate wealth creation formula. Serve more people, at a deeper level, in more efficient ways. Do this, and wealth becomes inevitable. Now, let's talk about what happens when you fully align with the law of service. You enter what I call the flow state of wealth, where money comes to you with ease, where opportunities appear effortlessly, where your work feels meaningful and joyful. This isn't because everything is suddenly easy. You're still working hard, but it doesn't feel like struggle anymore. It feels like flow. You're in alignment with your purpose, serving at a high level, and wealth is flowing naturally as a result. I experience this flow state regularly now. I wake up excited about the work I do because it's not about the money. It's about the impact. The money is just the mechanism that allows me to keep serving and to expand my service. This is the difference between rich and wealthy. Rich is just having money. Wealthy is having money and meaning. Rich can be empty. Wealthy is fulfilling. The law of service ensures that your wealth has meaning, that you're not just accumulating resources but using them to create positive change in the world. Your assignment for this chapter: answer these questions deeply and honestly. What is my unique form of service? What value am I here to create? Who am I meant to serve? What group of people do my skills and experiences uniquely qualify me to help? How can I serve at a higher level than I currently am? What would I do with my wealth once I have it? How will I use money to create positive impact? Write out your answers. These answers become your North Star, the purpose that guides your wealth creation journey. Because when you know why you're building wealth beyond just having money, the entire journey becomes more meaningful, more motivating, and paradoxically, more financially successful. Conclusion. The integration. You've now learned the 7 spiritual laws of wealth creation. 1. The law of energetic alignment. Money flows to those whose energy is aligned with having it. 2. The law of value creation. Money is gratitude for value received. 3. The law of circulation. Money must flow to multiply. 4. The law of receiving. Your capacity to receive is determined by your worthiness. 5. The law of detachment. The less you need money, the more easily it comes. 6. The law of gratitude. Whatever you appreciate, appreciates. 7. The law of service. True wealth comes from serving something larger than yourself. These aren't separate principles. They're different facets of one unified truth. Wealth is an energetic phenomenon. Money follows energy. When you align your energy with abundance through these 7 laws, wealth flows naturally. Let me tell you where I am now, 3 years after I discovered these principles. My businesses generate between $60,000 and $80,000 per month in revenue. I have over $400,000 in investments. I own real estate. I travel internationally several times per year. I support family members financially. I donate thousands of dollars per month to causes I care about. But more importantly, I love my work. I feel deeply fulfilled by what I do. I wake up excited. I go to bed grateful. I have meaningful relationships. I'm healthy. I'm peaceful. This is what wealth creation looks like when you do it through spiritual laws instead of just hustle and grind. You create financial abundance, but you also create a life of meaning, purpose, and joy. The path from where I was 3 years ago, $83 in a coffee shop, broke and desperate, to where I am now wasn't about working harder than I was before. I actually work fewer hours now. The transformation happened because I changed my energy. I aligned myself with these 7 laws. And as I aligned, wealth flowed. You can do the same thing, regardless of where you're starting from. Regardless of your education, your background, your current circumstances. These laws work for everyone who works them. But you have to actually work them. You can't just read this audiobook and hope something changes. You have to implement these principles. You have to examine your beliefs. You have to practice gratitude. You have to create value. You have to serve. The laws work, but only if you work the laws. Here's my challenge to you. For the next 90 days, commit to implementing 1 law per week. Spend 7 days deeply exploring and practicing each law. By the end of 90 days, you'll have cycled through all 7 laws multiple times, and they'll begin to integrate into your natural way of being. Track your results. I promise you, if you genuinely implement these laws, your financial reality will transform. Maybe not overnight. Maybe not in the exact way you expect. But it will transform. And more importantly, your entire relationship with money will transform. You'll stop seeing money as this scary, elusive thing that you have to chase. You'll start seeing it as energy that flows naturally when you're aligned with it. Money will stop being a source of stress and start being a source of freedom. Freedom to serve more, to create more, to live more fully. This is my wish for you, that you create not just wealth, but meaningful wealth. Wealth that serves you and allows you to serve others. Wealth that's built on a foundation of value, service, and genuine contribution to the world. The 7 spiritual laws aren't a shortcut. They're a path. Walk this path consistently, and you'll arrive at financial freedom with your integrity intact and your soul satisfied. 3 years from now, you'll look back at this moment as the turning point. The moment when you stopped chasing money and started aligning with it. The moment when you discovered that money really does follow energy. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Now go create wealth that matters.